Well, hello everybody.
Hello.
I met all of you by now, but I'll do a brief introduction as well. And there's been so many amazing speakers, and there's so many topics that I was talking to Luca, and I was like, what do I talk about? Adaptability, resilience, stress management, and she's like, adaptability, because we already have stress and burnout covered, we have that covered, let's talk about adaptability. And let's just throw a spin in there of how adaptability fosters your passion for change. And how can you ignite your passion for change knowing about adaptability? So that's what the topic of our talk is today. So what we're going to cover, we're going to talk about what adaptability is. And not just the definition, but like deep breakdown of what it means. So for those of you who like science, we love that. We're going to talk about why adaptability is so important in the current world, more than ever. And then the third one is, what's the role of adaptability and passion for change? How are they connected? How are they correlated? So before I jump into it, a brief introduction to me and why am I so passionate about this topic. So I grew up in Russia. And in Russia, we had to be adaptable. So it was more like a reactive adaptability because there's all sorts of crazy circumstances in the time I was growing up in the Soviet Union. Sometimes you didn't have food in the stores to buy. Sometimes my dad had to drive to Moscow. I was living about an hour from Moscow for an hour to go get food. They had money, there was no food to buy. So I learned early on that you have to just roll with the punches. Otherwise, you're not going to survive. And but there are also dreams that fueled me. My first dream was still in reaction to. I felt very limited, so when my dad told me I couldn't do something, and there's one phrase that he said when I asked him why, I just wanted to go play with my friends, and he's like, no. I'm like, why not? He's like, just no. I'm like, give me a reason. And he's like, why do you live under my roof? And I pay your bills, you're gonna do what I say. And I got pissed off for a second, and 30 seconds, I think. And then I'm like, wait a second, he just gave me a roadmap to freedom. I gotta move out of my parents' house. I gotta start making my own money, and then I can do what I want. So that's what I did. Early on, I moved from my hometown to Moscow when I went to college. And then shortly after, I moved to the United States. Right after college, I moved to the United States. That's a whole another story. I set the intention, and 4 months later, I was in Seattle. Crazy story for another day. We don't have time. But my journey to creating changes in my life, of course, did not stop there. It was just the start. Because America was the dream of possibilities, and I was trying to figure out what I want to do. And I was educated in IT. I had a computer science master. And I was working as a developer, a tester, and then eventually project manager. But at some point, I hit that point, which I think many people in the tech industry hit as well at different times, is I got the house, I got the car, I got the good job, I had a bank account, and I was unhappy. And I thought all these things will bring me happiness, and they didn't. So I went on the soul search of what is happiness, and how do you discover it, and what is it? Which brought me to the work of transformation and coaching and purpose searching. And through all of that, I discovered life coaching, and I found that helping people achieve their dreams was my dream. And so in parallel, I started creating what I wanted and then supporting other people and creating what they wanted. First, I retired from my corporate job. Another story, set the intention. 2 years later, I was living on passive income, exactly as I planned. And I traveled the world. I lived in mostly tropical places because that's what I prefer. And the importance of that was that there's a way to blend things. It doesn't have to be one or the other. I thought that, I either work in corporate or I quit and I never come back and I'm just going to leave my dream out there being a retired person. No, life had a different plan for me. I went to Costa Rica, and in a very short period of time, I lost everything and some. And not only I had to go back to work, I had to rebuild my finances. But I didn't start from scratch, because by then I already collected so many tools that allowed me to create what I wanted. And I trained with, the IT side of things. I became a certified project manager. I got to be a certified coach. Then I studied with Dr. Joe Dispenza, became one of his consultants to bring the work of the neuroscience of change to the workplace. I got certified with the HeartMath Institute, which is the science behind resilience. and how our heart and our heart confidence have everything to do with our health, with our productivity, with our intuition, our creativity. It's like, look at them all of these tools. And what I discovered through all of the journey, lost money, made money, found something, lost something, is that adaptability is one skill that once you master it, you have it forever. And it's not that like, check, I'm adaptable. It's it's a journey. And you improve, and I'm going to talk about the different sub-dimensions of adaptability today. And the importance of that is that adaptability, that's the skill that allows you to create the change you proactively want to create. So whether it's a business or a relationship or move to another country or whatever, but it's also the skill that allows you to bounce back when life doesn't go your way, when something happens and the rug gets pulled underneath your feet. How many of us have had that? Yes. So resilience, it doesn't mean you won't be knocked down, it's just how fast you will get up. Or are you going to stay down for a day, a month, 6 months, a year, 10 years, right? So when I lost all my money and I was sitting in Costa Rica, it was pre-pandemic, I was early to crisis. And I'm like, and it took me 6 months to get out of depression, out of really kind of like self-shame, self-guilt. How did I get there? I thought I was like invincible and successful. And it took me 6 months, and I was like, God damn it, 6 months, what the heck? Like, I'm fast, like, it's too slow. And then I looked at it, and I was like, well, compared to who? And compared to what? Some people never recover from it. Some people take their life, some people do different things. And I was like, you know what? I'll take 6 months. It was a really, really good learning journey that really did enhance my resilience. Because after that, like Luca was talking, and after big punches, all these little things, like they don't phase us anymore. So what does adaptability mean to you? Just shout out, whatever. What do you mean by adaptability?
Go with the flow.
Flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding your environment.
Strength. Yep.
Willing to change.
Yep.
Stability.
Stability.
Yeah. Stability and change. So I am going to play a little video that's going to play straight from the creators of adaptability assessment called Adaptability Quotient AQ, directed from London. And Ross is going to talk about what is adaptability, why it's so important in the business world, in life, and for everybody. Now, let's see, how do I press this thing? Hopefully the sound is good though.
In order to improve anything, you have to measure it. So when we started to look at adaptability as a key component, and everybody's saying, oh, this is the thing, this is what we need to unlock and understand to thrive in the future.
I have a different methodology to assess startup founders, and it's not complicated. I look for signs of one specific trait. Not IQ, not EQ. It's adaptability. How well a person reacts to the inevitability of change, and lots of it. Adaptability itself is a form of intelligence, and our adaptability quotient, or AQ, is something that can be measured, tested, and improved.
The whole concept of AQ, adaptability quotient, we broke it down into 3 areas: ability, character, and environment. So AQ ability is how and to what degree do I adapt?
It's a choice. Many people don't realize it's a choice, but I think it's a choice about how not only you want to react to certain situations, but what kind of people you want to surround yourself with.
AQ character, it's who adapts and why.
Some people will adapt because they're motivated by big goals, by growth, by achievement. While the others will adapt because I have to adapt. It's a duty. I must, otherwise I will lose my job. And you are actually not that because you adapt perhaps in a very systematic way. It's just your character. But your manager must know about that.
AQ environment is about when does somebody adapt and to what degree.
People spend 2/3 of their time in the office working. If they have a frustrating experience, a depressing experience, an experience that sucks when they have to go to work, then probably their life will be impacted in the same way.
We're at the ground, 0.1 of assessment and measure, and we do it through a conversational chatbot. So you'll have a 25-minute, half an hour conversation. We're working to get that as natural as possible, and you will then get a score, so an AQ score. You also get a bit of a profile. But taking that data only shows you that snapshot. What we're super excited about is, can we predict what might happen next? A reskill index or a change readiness of that team or cohort or workforce, so that we can then put interventions in place for those that might struggle, aren't quite ready, so that we're using our resources effectively.
I think adaptability is one of those essential skills for the future. You gotta have great IQ, you gotta have EQ, but if you don't have your AQ, for the future, you're not gonna stand it. You set your mindset towards it as you learn and build that muscle. It's something that everyone needs to focus on through life.
So when I came across this company, actually it came to me through a bunch of synchronicities. I was just at awe because I like to measure things, and we know what gets measured gets improved. But how do you measure adaptability? Well, there's a way. And we'll start with the definition of what adaptability is in this model. So it's the capacity to adjust one's thoughts and behaviors in order to effectively respond to uncertainty, new information, or changed circumstances. So we'll do a little bit of reflection. Think of examples when you had to be adaptable. Sometime in your life when you had to be adaptable, and looking back, what skills do you wish you had, and how would those skills have helped you? Anybody would like to share anything that comes? Feel free to jump in. Yeah.
So at one point I was a meteorologist in Hawaii, and I got transferred to Washington, D.C. I was a tropical meteorologist, and then in D.C., remember the year the blizzard, the Snowmageddon?
Yes.
Now they're talking about, that was like 13 years ago. I was the meteorologist at the Pentagon for that. So it was cold, I was lonely. There was an officer, for a whole year I was in Washington, D.C., I was miserable. Because all I was doing was comparing D.C. with paradise, right? And now I look back, I'm like, oh, what a waste of energy. So eventually I met my husband there. I mean, I have great memories, but for a whole year I was so reluctant to adapt, living in the past, that I really wasted a whole year just feeling sorry for myself.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Any other shares? Yeah, Galina.
Say in project management on the maritime side, dealing with these ships that are going from location A to B, they're on the water, and you're having to meet them at a port, having all the logistics and making sure everything's done and what they need. You have to be able to adapt and change, because you just never know what happens between the weather and the scheduling, and equipment failure, and what the, 100 different things can happen in one project, and you have to be able to have plan A, B, C, D, and E, and you be ready to pull, do whatever you can to deliver on time and, in budget.
Beautiful. Thank you. And another reflection. Think of someone you know who has not been adaptable. Somebody in your life, maybe at your workplace. And what was it like working with that person? And what problems have you encountered due to their inability to be adaptable?
I'll share the story of my father, who currently has leukemia. He was diagnosed 18 months ago. And my father was a dentist, a businessman that used to do everything by himself. And now he's fully dependent on me, my family. And prior to his diagnosis, he had a seizure. Because of the seizure, they put him on the care plan, which is like a depressing medication, but it's an anti-seizure. With that, my father completely became a quiet person. He doesn't want to see anything. And it's very difficult for me, because prior to moving the whole family from Connecticut to New Jersey, we had to do a lot of long distance trips to go to the hospital. And driving 3 hours, round trip is 6 hours with somebody that cannot see anything to you. It's difficult. You can see him suffering. You can't help him, and in the meantime, it's difficult for you. So, but we're looking into it. I was very happy this morning. He called me and said, "Can I take this? Can I eat this?" I was like, "Wow, Dad, thank you. You made my day." This is like a process, but me being away from him, I feel like it helped, and that's why I tell Elita every day, they can survive without me. When I am in their environment, they act like they all depend on me, but sometimes I have to be away from them to activate the skills.
Yeah. So then
And I think it's adaptability.
yeah, they're forced to figure it out because
Yeah.
it's not solved for them. And another thing I want to add to your story, it might relate to some others. From the work that I've done with HeartMath and Nurture Solutions, there's a direct correlation between our stress level and our ability to change. When we're stressed, we cannot change. We want to, but we can't because we are in a certain brainwave state called high beta brainwave patterns. That's fight and flight. So when we're in shock, when we're in stress, chronic stress, or like acute strong stress, we can't change in that moment. So we need to figure out our way to get out of that stress state first. However, and there's many tools, I may talk about some of them today, so that we can. And it's a process. Some people snap out of it fast, some people take slower, but that's nature, that's human nature. We're designed to like brace for impact, and that's not the time to change. So yeah, that could be another factor. So the point of all of this is that we need to develop our skills to adapt to navigate the change. One of the research that I've came across is that it used to be in the past that you can be in the same business for 20 years and don't need to change. Same business model, same customers, same little town, and it's fine. Now, the research shows that you need to reinvent your business every 4 years. Otherwise, you go out of business. So people who are in business for themselves or even working for a company, we're all some sort of in business. We have to adapt. We have to change. Otherwise, companies implode, and we've seen some of them that were stuck in the past and more into Ableton. And now, I'm going to skip that because I think we're time-wise. I want to watch. So, I want to dive into what is adaptability. And there's 3 dimensions and 15 sub-dimensions. I'm briefly going to cover them all, and then we're going to dive into those that have to do with passion for change. So, ability is our skill set. Ability is how and to what degree we adapt. That's something that's completely trainable. Some people are born with it, yes. Some people early years of their life shape that, but everybody can develop it and everybody can improve it. And that's what I do through the trainings and the coaching that I offer to companies and people. Character, it's more kind of like your way to deal with change. It's not that you cannot change that, you can, it's just a little bit more stable. And you may not necessarily want to change that part, it's just knowing and having more awareness about yourself helps you navigate change easier. And knowing that those dimensions about other people that you work with or part of your team or people that you hire, your assistants, and all of it really helps you kind of develop the kind of team that needs to be agile, right? And environment is all about, is the environment in the company, is the environment in the team supportive for people being adaptable, or is it stifling? So it has to do with company culture, team culture, and all of that. So we're going to talk a little bit about ability and character because that's what relates most to the passion for change. So there are 5 sub-dimensions inside adaptability. Grit is our ability to kind of like keep going, stay the course, not give up, persevere through obstacles. And people who have high grit, they can keep going. People who have low grit, they quit very easily, right? Mental flexibility, that was an interesting one. It's our ability to hold different perspectives without losing our own. Like being able to fully know what's important for me and fully know what's important for my client, for my company, for my boss, and be able to hold all of them without trying to overpower one over the other. Just really hold all of them so that the next one emerges that can give answers where there will be a win-win for all. Mindset is how do we think about change? Do we love change? Are we excited about change? Are we energized by change? Or do we fear change? Do we resist change? How many of you know people who hate change? They will do whatever, even if they're miserable, but they don't want to move. They have low mindset in adaptability.
Very educated people too.
Yes.
I have a friend who's a
Sometimes they're
doctor.
more educated
Yes.
and less
Yeah.
adaptable.
Not even to the point of changing a different hospital to work at. No, miserable, long hours, but well,
Yeah, and we're gonna dive into that more because that has to do with passion for change. Resilience. Resilience is our ability to recover from setbacks. But I'll deepen it a little bit with heart mouth definition of resilience is our ability to prepare and then adapt so that some of those we actually may avoid altogether. So it's like an energy battery. It's a skill that you recharge, and the more charged you are, the more you can withstand without falling down. And I'm learning is the skill to be able to let go of the old and embrace the new.
Let it go, let it go.
Hello. Any questions on this spectrum before we dive into character? Anything stands out that you're like, ooh, I don't know more about that. All right, off we go then. So character subdimension of adaptability has to do with how you deal with change internally. What's your preference of handling change? Emotional range, that more has to do with how do you experience emotions. Are you more even? And you don't have too many highs and lows? Are you like happy and sad, happy and sad? There's different kinds of people, right? And some people love the roller coaster, and some people love smoothness. And the reactive or collected reactive is like, how easy is it to like get you out of balance? You can get out, but like how easy it is for you to get out, right? And collected, it's more like, think, oh, like, okay, that's an interesting experience, right? So people are anywhere on the spectrum. And there's no high or low in this subdimension. It's more kind of like two polar opposites, and people usually land somewhere in the middle. So you don't have to be all this or that. You can be right in the middle. Extroversion and introversion, it's not so much like, do you love to hang out with people or not, right? It's more, how do you deal with change? Many people who have introversion, they want to absorb the information about change, go home, think about it, sleep on it, and then come back and discuss it. People who approach it in the extroverted way, they got the news, they need to talk about it, they need to get all the details, they need to hash out the solutions together, right? And knowing that in our teams, there are probably people from both spectrums, it's good to know, to account so that people who need space, they can have that space, and people who need to talk, they have the space to talk. Hope. Hope is an interesting thing. There's many different definitions of hope. And it's like wishing for the bright future, right? But in adaptability, hope means that you believe in your innate ability to figure things out. That if this way didn't work, you know you'll find another way. So people who have high hope, they like, solution number 1 didn't work, that's fine, I'll try 2. 2 didn't work, I'll try 3, and they keep going. And people with low hope, they try 1 or 2, and there's like, I can't solve this. I don't know if I can solve this. And that's what I mentioned, like I was really tested in my Costa Rican experience, because up until then I thought I could solve anything. And this was the first time in my life that I was like, I don't know if I can solve it. I really don't. And that was a very interesting, humbling experience. I'm like, oh, that's what people go through, many of them their whole life. So it gave me a taste of what it is like for people. Motivation style. Some people are motivated by creating big dreams and goals and changing the world. Yeah. And some people are motivated by not losing their job. Or they only start moving when their company shuts down in a certain region and they are forced to look for another one. Some people don't want to look for another one, so they move their company because there's less change. I know some of them. And then thinking style, it's how do you process change? Are you a big picture kind of person? So all you can do is big vision, but you cannot drill down to the small details and the steps of what it takes? Or are you the kind of person that can like action item your way through it, but you cannot zoom out? Or maybe you're somewhere in the middle. So knowing that about yourself and knowing about the teams then help you communicate with different team members. When the change is forced or when the change is proactively created, you can do that. And then the last one, I'm going to go briefly through it, but it all has to do with an environment. So company support is how much employees or team members feel like the company cares about them and their well-being and not just about getting results out of them. Because the more they feel company support, the more they're engaged, the more they are at ease. And emotional health is the gauge of when you go to work or to business, do you get more positive emotions during the day or do you get more negative emotions during the day? And sometimes it has to do with events that are happening out there, and sometimes it's just about your experience of those events. But if you mostly get energized and positive emotions, then you're more on the, high emotional health spectrum. And if you're mostly stressed out and everything's frustrating and people are jerks, then you're more on the low one. So it helps your energy. Team support is lower, kind of like more zoomed in. It's not just the company cares about you, it's like my teammates. Can I speak my mind? Can I say when something is wrong? Does my body have my back? So that's the team support. The immediate team, your immediate department, your colleagues, direct colleagues. Work environment, it is the adaptability of an environment. When something needs to change, is it like a mammoth that takes an hour or like a year to does it take a very long time to get the change through, or is the company agile enough to test and pivot and test and adapt, right? And then the work stress is just your overwhelm or not of the amount of the org tasks that you do. So those are all the subdimensions. The test can measure them all. If management take their team through, they can see the snapshot of their team. Very, very, very helpful, useful tool. Now, if we were to look at how does it help us navigate change, our personal change, and what gives us energy and that passion for change or not, right? And usually there's a lot of research how all the subdimensions map to specific personal objectives, business objectives. If you want to improve performance, you look at specific 3. You want to increase engagement, you do another 3. But as far as passion for change, I found that there's 3 things here that for me personally, I'm like, oh, those make the biggest difference. One is the mindset. If I fear change, if I think change is a bad thing, there's no way I'll be passionate about it. I'm going to avoid it at all costs. And some of it is because of the way that we are raised. Some of it is because we were punished when we were little, when we tried new things. Some of it is because when we wanted to stand out, we were bullied. So we want to hide, we want to play small, and we don't want to ruffle the feathers. How many of you have seen that or experienced that in your life, right? So there, what I found for me that made a big, big difference, of course, is inner work. Is just to really look at what are all those micro or macro traumas that I had? When I wanted to do something and I got shut down. How can I process it out of my system? And I mean, all levels, mentally, emotionally, physically, cellularly, clean it out so that I don't have that hot button anymore. Because if I have the button, I can mentally want to do it, but my emotional body will pull me back. And there are ways to do that through meditation, through different rapid rewire techniques, through heart mouth work. What is it that drains your energy when you think about change? Are you afraid of rejection? Are you afraid of critique? Are you afraid of looking stupid? Different people have different buttons around, right? So if you clear out, you become aware of what those buttons are, and then you do the work by yourself or with a professional or in the training to clear it, then you no longer fear change. And then you at least get to neutral, right? And then what also helped me is to install the new programs that I prefer to replace the old ones that didn't work for me. For example, there's one principle that I read in a book written by a quantum physicist out of Russia. He called it the principle of coordination. And it's when something happens that looks like it's a shitty thing. Like you got your money stolen, somebody broke into your car and took all your luggage and your passport, like happened to me in Portugal. You can either think about it, oh, that's the worst thing that happened to me, this is shit, like what the heck, right? And you get frustrated and then in the quantum physics model, you gravitate towards the version of reality where the statement, this is shit, becomes true, and it actually indeed is bad for you. And then there's another possibility, true or false, I don't know, but that perspective works for me. And that is when whatever happens and it looks like shit, and you just choose to believe this is the best thing that ever happened to me. I don't know why, but it's the best thing ever happened to me, let's figure out why now. And I tested it on small things like falling on stage in the dance performance, or having all my stuff stolen and sitting in Portugal with no documents trying to get back, or losing $1 million. And every level challenged me. It's like, oh, can I believe that this level is also for the better? Oh, you are? Okay, here's the next one. Can you graduate next one? So, but the more and more, and that's how our brain works, when you think certain thoughts, the more you think those thoughts, they fire and wire in your brain. So the more you think a certain way, it becomes your new default over time. So you just need to think new way long enough, and ideally take some action and have some experience that reinforce those connections to adopt the new reality for you. And then you'll have a different experience of life. So for me, mindset is like one solution to a lot of things. If I don't like the way that I feel because of change or because of an event, I always ask myself, what was the thought that led to this feeling? Because it's usually a thought, conscious or subconscious, I can't see. Time?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay, I'll wrap it up. So mindset is one big one. Hope was another one. Because if I trust that I can figure it out, I can go with a lot of uncertainty, right? Because if you trust yourself, you don't need to know the details. You know you'll figure it out. You've done it a million times, you'll do it again. And when people lose hope, when they feel like there is no way, energy drain, depression, a lot of ice cream at midnight. Right? And then another part, which is a big factor, is the motivational style. So play to win or play to protect. And people who play to win, there's an interesting correlation. Like you achieve a goal, if you're playing to win, you're setting another goal and you keep going. If you are more of the play to protect, you got some painful thing, you got out of the pain, I'm good. You don't want to grow. Because you need another pain for you to avoid if that's your style, right? And then you wait for the next crisis and the next crisis. So knowing what you are, and those, yes, they are character traits. I do believe they're changeable. But it's good to know about yourself, right? So if you need pain to get moving, I have a friend who is like, I make a lot of money in my business when I have no money. So he would consciously or subconsciously get himself to a state where he has no money, and then he makes millions, and then he ghosts, and then it happens again, right? So knowing what you are, knowing how it is for you, then allows you to create that passion for change. And I think passion, for us to create what we want, I think it's innate in us. Like we want to do better, most of us, right? Those with the play to win, at least, motivational style. It's all the stuff that got in the way or was a gift during our upbringing that took that out, that made it harder for us. But at the same time, it gave us the gift to be more resilient. So watching if you are fearing change, watching your thoughts. What are those thoughts? Maybe they're real, maybe they're not real. If they're real, it's like, oh, I'm afraid because I've never done it before. Okay, how can you prepare? What skills can you develop internally or externally? Who can you bring as your support team? Because you don't have to do it alone. Who do you hire? Who can you bring as a mentor, as a board director to your company to support you with that change if you've never done it before? Those are all good strategies, and you can employ all of them as it fits to the kind of change that you're looking for. So I think that would be it. I guess I'll leave you with that as a pondering moment that we can do during the break, is if you think about your goals for the next 5 years, something that inspires you, something that pulls you forward. What are those goals, and what sub-dimensions of adaptability you think will help you get there? Maybe those are the sub-dimensions you already have developed, or maybe there's one that stood out for you, is like, oh, I gotta work on that one if I want to get to that goal. Thank you very much.
Yes.
If you enjoyed this video and the topic of adaptability interests you, and you want to go deeper, you can go to my website. URL is turningpoint.pro/AQ. The link is down there in the description, and learn more. There you can download a sample report to see what it looks like for free. You can take your own assessment to really measure your own adaptability in all the sub-dimensions and see which ones you want to focus on improving in the way that it aligns with your personal, professional, and potentially your team goals. So link is down there in the description. See you on the other side.